I hope everybody's just keeping well and getting on their business as it should. I've been all right. A couple of people they thought that I probably either blocked them or something, which was never the case. I just had probably much to say, but you gotta listen to a lot of people that in one way or another plead with you on one thing or another, and which is very much understandable. And at some point you also got to focus on other things that were quite pressing. It's been 2 years of talking about just a single thing, and which could be really time consuming. You close from work, you're running to have a conversation, and they're not be able to take care of and all that. And not everybody want you to show your face and be saying or talking about things that they think probably you've said enough about them and all that. But today would be honestly the last conversation we would have on who killed the cops. And it being the last conversation, we will not really focus on the prosecution and everything that the regime had done to this young man. But our focus today would be what the defense have significantly achieved in this case, and what people of interest have supported this case all the way to this day. And as well, people who had no relations whatsoever with Hussein Obojang and coming forward to really give testimonies that definitely helped the case to get to where it is today. So that only shows that you don't need to be related by blood to people to actually defend a just cause or to talk about something that is very true in our society. And sometimes at your own cost, but to make sure that justice and the truth is defended in our nation. And which I think is very, very important, that a lot of people saw the need to stand up for justice against the injustice that the regime tried to forcefully and deliberately put on this young man. Now today there were a couple of things that never got clarifications on, and that we would try to clarify here. And we've received a lot of mixed reactions to it from the beginning of everything. And probably it was not time to talk about some of those. And when there is some negativity surrounding one thing or another, I just let it loose, because I always know that there will come a day that it will be most appropriate and ideal to talk about some of those. And today is probably the most appropriate time, and of course the appropriate day to bring some of those things into perspective. So to draw you a little back, Hussein Obojang is somebody I know, grew up with in the same community, went to school with, and of course quite a close associate. As a kid growing up in the same community, people would grow up and go into their different fields and respectively and do whatever they got to do. But they will never lose sight of the fact that you grow up together, you're homies from the hood, and of course you will always defend nothing but the truth when injustice is meted against one of us. So what the government of the Gambia did, specifically on today's testimony, and before we get into that, I think it's important that we commend and of course thank Kathleen, who actually owned, where Hussein Obojang works, and have known this young man for over 15 years since 2010. And she did everything she could humanly possible. And even though the court had even granted, her the permission to testify virtually, she decided to fly into the country, stay there for a couple of days. That just a few of us were very much opportune to those conversations, because we've had forth and back and conversations, making sure that everything goes as planned. And, we decided to just loosen up on the case as if nothing was happening. She flew into the country, presented herself in court today, with all the messages she exchanged with Hussein Obojang on the day of the incident. The government told us that this incident happened between 8 p.m. to midnight. Between 8 p.m. to 9:10 was when the shooting happened. Now, in court today, Kathleen has presented messages, constant messages, with Hussein Obojang from 8 p.m. of that same night until 8 p.m. all the way to midnight. Now, that is just one thing about it. somebody who is killing the cops at the same time, constantly on the phone, chatting on WhatsApp, sending voice messages constantly from 8 p.m. to midnight, and it was within the same time period that police were killed. How is that possible? Now, that only concludes to one thing, that is to verify the reason why the police actually formatted his phone. So the police formatted Ousainou Bojang's phone because they did not want those messages to come out. And these messages were what were presented today in court. Even though the DPP Yusuf deliberately have ignored or actually left himself out of the case, they decided to bring, either Wakawa or whatever you pronounce his name. And this Wakawa, we will go into him as well to understand how the Gambia continues to recruit the most incompetent lawyers from across the region and of course give them big titles. Imagine this guy is a principal prosecutor with almost zero experience in processes that have to do with courts here and there. This is just one person who was yesterday teaching in a flimsy university somewhere in Nigeria, claims to be a PhD student, but of course came to the Gambia and of course is a principal, prosecutor. When our own Gambian brothers with relevant experience, education and expertise will never be giving those positions. Gambia, ñun la lañ gom. Gambian bi dinga janga bedde am ham babuga de. On top of it, you have the experience, all the prerequisite experience. They will not give you the job. You know why? Because you might work in the best interest of the nation, but they will always bring in some of these riffraffs from nowhere, give them big position so that they can do what the regime wants. And that is how Wakawa and other people get their jobs, because this guy is not on secondment from the Federal Ministry of Nigeria, because that is where we know that Nigerians are often sent on secondment to the Gambia. This guy, I don't know however they actually got him, but it's not one of those. So therefore he must be one of the people that they just handpicked from somewhere in the streets somewhere and then brought them over to actually be doing injustice towards the Gambia. If DPP cannot handle the case, who is Wakawa to think he can handle it? And that is why he was shamed in court today, that you want to tell a British how to speak English, when in reality you have very little understanding of the language. And that was why he was put to shame today. You cannot use vocabulary trying to actually deceive people who have clear understanding of what they are talking about, born and raised native speakers. But here, that's not even my point. My point is, why did the regime format Ousainou Bojang's phone? That was the purpose of today's witness. The witness came with certified, documents authenticating that the WhatsApp messages and everything she's heard with Ousainou Bojang were authenticated and verified to be real WhatsApp conversations. Now, secondly, she had everything put on a flash drive, and as well she presented her phone to the judge to say, here is the phone. They decided to format everything in Ousainou Bojang's phone, but they cannot touch my phone, and everything about this conversation is right here in my phone. And of course, this phone was presented to the court, and of course, the presiding judge had to go through all the messages and realize that from 8 p.m. of that day, this dude was constantly on WhatsApp all the way to midnight. At the same time, how can somebody be so active on WhatsApp doing all those conversations at the same time killing cops? But in terms of understand, Gambia Mansakunda, when you get hold of this dude, you realize that he was so busy on his phone and you notice that he has nothing whatsoever to do with the case. Why did you format his phone? Don't tell to put this thing on this dude by all means. That really made me sad. That the police of the Republic of the Gambia, after noticing everything that Ousainou Bojang, even when you captured him, you notice that he is not the right person. You could say we got the wrong person. But deliberately you formatted his phone and did everything you can humanly possibly do to put this whole case on him. Boy, Joe Yaman Tambiwala, Kafir Yaman Tambiwala, Hasid Yaman Tambiwala. There is no level of wickedness that the Gambia police cannot go to. And at some point, honestly, I don't give a man. Because the fact of the matter now becomes that you really understood that this dude has nothing to do with the case. After knowing all that, You decided to format his phone thinking that communication is one way. Communication is in two ways, not one way. You can format his phone, but you cannot destroy all the messages that he sent and the messages that he received from the other party. And the other party has presented everything in those conversations to the court today. Ayal to Malokono, ayal to Doyakono, ayal to Joyakono, and exposes your potential complicity in the killing of your own men. So today's witness did not only tell us how brutal, wicked, and evil the Gambia police force is, but she went on to tell us that any person who might have issues in the Gambia, don't expect the police to do justice because they are the most cruel, barbaric, and evil people in the country. Atole nyom mo jawolu. Gambia police olu nyom mo jawolu. Ila nyaton kolu nyom mo jawolu nana manso da nyimbanko kam. Kambirin Gambia baya wulu nana maje moka mojibe yalon ko to nya kare man nyinge ko hani al nga la kam force nga la telefono ta nga format until somebody had to flee from the UK to come and present her phone to say ntele nin kare be kachala kabirin talan konon for dutala. Where does that leave the police force? Where does that leave the regime? In complete shambles and shame. But before we got to that, we've listened to Mankajang, and you told the Gambian people that if anybody knows any information about the killing of the cops, let them come forward and give relevant information. Mankajang went to Casamas, came back, had an interview with Mama and all of that. You arrested him and put him incommunicado because you wanted to destroy every potential evidence he's got. Because you said he was interfering with your witnesses. But at the time, the case was not yet in court. How comes you already had witnesses that people were interfering with? Because you understood that everything Mama said were all fabricated scripts and lies. Because that is the reason why you said Mama's audio is lost. The audio is with people. That is the reason why Mama said she did not receive the money. But the National Audit Report had indicated that Mama Jabi received $1 million from the government of the Gambia, and that bounty was set by the president. Why didn't the president give Mama a bounty from his pocket? But he fraudulently went again and take money from the state coffers and give it to Mama for no good reason. Gambia Mansakunda, Allah kuo malo sembo warta mtemte fe bakela. I just cannot digest this. I really cannot digest it. That the government of the people that is meant to serve the people of this country can come all out to frame a young man with his lactating sister who did them no wrong, even after knowing that these people were not involved in this in any way. They deliberately decided to format his phone just to put it on him by all means. Omo joviality, omo hashidiality, omo bata reality. So to have people tell you, no, forget about this, you gotta shut up. Look, we cannot. In as much as we try to let it slide, we just cannot, because we cannot look at that level of injustice, cruelty, and criminality and be quiet on it. But the government of Adama Barrow is exposed. Because if not, first let's look at it from chronologically. They said their independent witness actually came to anti-crime at midnight, which is not true, because nobody enters anti-crime through the back gate at midnight. That's already false. Oseanu claimed that they were beating and torturing him to force him to say something he knew nothing about. Just from that point, these people went on to format his phone. The phone that they said they were tracking, DIG, so many of don't track telephone. They can telephone, bisa demuton kasamas. Ngen dem keri jambur, ngen jel telephone ambi, ngen read telephone message, yep, you neka si telephone bi. Ngen gisne wah dega yala. Wah dega fa yala pako bi demut fu incident bi happen, because this guy was so busy on his WhatsApp. What did you people do? You formatted his phone, thinking that, okay, formatting the phone will save you, because yo ibu, so you went through the phone, you realized that Deputy 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, this guy was constantly messaging and in constant conversations, that he cannot be doing those conversations at the same time killing cops, because the person who did that is an expert. We got the wrong person. Let's go and look for the real person. But you went on to frame him deliberately and intentionally. So when things like that happen, then there is already high suspicion that the regime knows everything about the killing of the cops, and they did everything in their powers to, put it on this young man. if people did not stand up to make sure that justice is done in this case, what was the intention of the Gambia Police Force? To lie against this dude, to incarcerate him on their lies, and to put him in jail on their lies. When in reality, they know clearly the people that killed the cops. Oto Gambian Kolu. It's been 2 years of constantly talking about this case, which we've got to the end of it, because I believe that Kathleen should be, and of course, in my view, should be the last witness in this case. Yaje, when the case happened, I got all the messages that Usainu was conversing with Kathleen from Usainu's brother. I went on to have conversations with Kathleen over and over about things that were happening. A very professional British lady, very conscious and very, very tactful. Very careful about what she says and what exactly the conversations would be around. I've dealt with professionals, but this is a person at a higher level of professionalism. I shared the messages somewhere to say, how could you say this person killed the cops and at the same time he was busy in this conversation? Somebody who claims to be a tech savvy or probably had trained the police on, getting to know what is, doctored messages or whatever, told me, oh no, some of the messages look doctored. Bro, the messages made it to court today. Certified, verified, and of course, phone presented to the judge. When your prosecution had nothing absolutely to say. And it speaks to one thing. They formatted Usainu Bojang's phone because they know the dude has nothing whatsoever to do with the killing of the cops. But of course, to frame him and to make sure he does not have any evidence to defend himself, they went on to format his phone, not knowing that the communication was in two-way. That somebody somewhere would fly across oceans to get to the Gambia to present that phone and said, here is the phone, here is the certifications of these messages, here is it, and then present the phone right in front of the judge to say, here it is. Look through it and tell me somebody who is not a gun expert, who has never been in any rebellion, who does not work for Brikama Area Council, who has nothing to do with politics, could just go and kill the cops expertly like that, and at the same time is constantly on conversation, sending voice messages and messages at the same time. They said, Gambia police are capable of doing something like this, I would say no. But after this incident, I have the complete belief that Gambia police are capable of anything and everything criminal. And that is exactly what they did in this case. But it's now left to the judge. Because what I would want J. Dabo to do is to go and get that national audit report, presented to the court where Mama's name is explicitly mentioned, and it is said that she received the 1 million bounty. And when she was actually asked in court, she deliberately denied that she did not receive the money. Wonyo wulula wulu nena mansodo Gambia banko kam. Ama jabi ni mu wulula ta lonko ifana edingol la soto. Menen tafal to nyala kala bang wiri jaren dare dega rek moy mujé. Momoy minke droy kunkam. Ete wandi dingol la muta yatin na ye wol sorom sanji fula wandi bana dingol yara kore wol beke bayoti molla banko ka tra babe balwodo amman kuke mola na fulta amman mola fensunya man sakunda la tapwal ya ni la bandi ya ni la kurya ye wandi dingol muta ye soron tilimbal ya nan tajinde aka ye wandi dindol muta ye fay la politiko kan e murunde ka wuliya la dol kan ko wol soron tilimbal ya ni tapwal ya ka foki la telephone la muta ka format ka foko e sama tolla du itata mo fala mi yalon ka man ku singol fangol muna nyim man sakunda nal kam mal wal silata atol be fenne phone la Gambia wala atol be place ni la Gambia ko tenke bara Gambian kolo na bankole be wanyama nkomu dina dunkel lati bara na dino ka dan dalla nim probably ngajimi nga wolin no dro nga tuwoto bara tonya mbuka bara wala because ninyi mu tonya bankoti nya bebe tonya ni tilingo ni tapale yalla mini bebe kere nyim bankoka sanji fula mo bebe dering ko kuta kering as if they do not know. These are the kind of people that nimwe kudoke they use their pulpits to go and talk shit about other people. E ko etol mo dina dunkel lati lada ala la bara alla nya silongo fong, at some point is questionable that you cannot tell the truth to the regime that is busy killing people, on top of it framing other people. Will be to come and say something. That is why when I look at people of my community telling me, oh no, Barrow do got the money. Now Barrow neka president for the next 200 years. Malmo doesn't give 2-3 fucks. That's just the fact. Alay along, kila along, it does not add or reduce anything to me. But we will defend our people to the letter. And no manta silala mola wala ja. And amange come, you got to be in Gambia or you got to be elsewhere. Man nama fale lulu. You got MPP supporters all over New York. You got government officials coming to New York or whatsoever. Kekende abuka ke dula kilindodi. Na lato kontaka min foto nyate jale min no alu keje. Bare mfutara bitola nena man la ko bimbe futala bitolo ko albe wulia lala wandi dingo kanan, he will have people to defend him and we will defend him to the letter. And today, honestly, Oseno would leave that court with his head high up there. That of course indeed akoleata nyao nyama ye tumiro min lankang ala ya lommake moli sodota la min ya lon ko lota kaje ko to nyani tilungo e sabati jankatu nte make woli entelo ne ya lon ne ko manke mo kurunte manke mo falati manke tapale moti katu ngalo walla ala diamu mansia abuka mo tapale ya abuka mo nakari abuka dum mo kasida ebuka la problem mo edulato bara la mansa kunda la kuria na la tapale ya na la bandia ale wandi dingo mota na ana koto muso mi ya lonko ala dena no be doyaring ali ya dingo ke bayoti atol na la dimbayal be siring batara ya ka mo la banko kal ko mota ku fala woto. And on top of it, you think people are comfortable with their life, they just got to shut up. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't incarcerate our people out of your false narratives and lies and deception and expect everybody to shut up. This is the worst government I've ever seen in this wide world. That the police could actually go to that extent. Kamola telefono. Imagine your prime suspect. Ita kuwala telefono format. It was so alama ali edema. Kati tele ni usi na telefono tatakang. Itele na botakang. What we will now conclude that itele telefono in format. Pako. Amo dara lu ko fi jar yaga dega rek moy mujjé itanin tol be ñoo jëla ñu banko kan ka ribe fon ninki yare no seen we fon ninki yare sama seen tol be ñoo ñako na jibe la jam kadu ngalo ne hani i ñongol police kunda ni e jibe kalo na ko moro ita manke mo kende jiko tela mo kende da jiko tela so ko adama la masa kunda nyanta boy la kata manke masa kunda kende ti masa kenden tati mo kende jiko tela mo kurungol lamiti tapale lamiti mo falal lamiti anu wala ka wuli ala Gambia dingol kanke soron tapale anin tilimbal yakam ñun nam ko sodarinti ku ko wax rek wax nga dega ku ko waxut nak da ngay baña wax dega way ñi xam nañ ne Ousseynou Bodian demu fa reyut ben police yi yow nit ko ne yow mo rey police yi yow nga jël téléphone ko diko format luta nga wara format téléphone am bi ngir message yu nekk ci téléphone bi woné na ne pako bi mu ngi doon jëflante ak nit ñi depuis 8 o'clock ba midnight constantly. Lolu ngeen bañ pour mu woné lolu ngeen bañ pour ñi xam ko lolu ngeen bëgg andi ay jiko tapalé ay jiko say pour tuumal doomi jaamur ci ludul dega lolu ngeen fi def yena ñu ne boy bi rebelle la du dega yena ñu ne boy bi def am ñuko fay xaliss te yeen ben xaliss jëlu len ko ci mom yena ñu wax ne pako bi Brikama area council la moy liggéey yena ne da ngeen ko fekkon ci UDP court case bi Banjul lolu yépp ay feni kesse len si lolu ngeen ñoo di jël téléphone am bi diko format ngir message yu fa nekk bëggu len kenn gis lolu wa yeen bo len démé be xamné pako bi wax dëgg fa yalla mom demu fa defu ko. What is so wrong in telling people that we got the wrong person and then we would basically try to get the right person aussi ni demal ñibi ngeen ne dédé lolu du fi am du nañ ko tuumal du nañ ko sosal du nañ make sure ñu incarcerate ko and we will make sure we jail him for crimes that he had not committed. And we believe that the police are there to ensure there is accountability, justice and order. The same police that is there to make sure that there is justice and order are the same people that are framing our own innocent citizens and trying to put them in jail for reasons that probably only them knows. Oto Gambia jumala ñanta la police la jumala ñanta kan mo wara gom ne police yi ni dega lañ fi doxal kan mo fi wara am problème sa nga ne damay jog dem police ngir ñu doxal dega ngir ñoñu ñoo nekk ñi ñoo xamantene dañuy jog tuumal ay gor tuumal ay doomi jambur tejlu len ay ñaari at fekk nak ñu tok nak melni dara xewut DIG Sow bi wala kon andi police command filled with criminals and bandits boko waxe rek ñu ne like karabu adaga stress bakel But what is there not to be stressed about when you look at people, innocent people put in jail for reasons that nobody can tell? In this whole country, in this whole wide world, who in his right mind will tell you that Usain Bojan killed the cops? Who in his right mind will tell you is reasonably sensible that the police formatted his phone? Who in his right mind will tell you that it made sense for the police to say he is a rebel, he works in the Casamas rebellion, he possessed the weapon from there, he works for Brikama Area Council, he was at the UDP court case in Banjul, just for all of that in totality to be fabricated scripts by the police? Why will the police lie that much in this case if they are innocent? But why would they even tell us that he wore a combat boot that they picked in his house that did not fit him in court, that actually belongs to his brother? Wale atina DPP borta case lama hani kataki iti odo kodenga kadu malosembo warrakan. Bare ya wakawa min tom bonna silo kan Abubakar wakawa momala min kara momala londo bondi damin bar because almalla Gambian la almalla tonya molla almalla Gambian min yalango, they have the experience, they have the prerequisite knowledge, and of course they have the capacity and the capability to man those key positions in our justice ministry. You will go and pick this samba boy yo xamantene ken xamuñ fuñ joge ngeen jël len jox len place pour ñu defal len lo len buga. It's about doing what the regime wants and not to actually deliver justice in our beloved country. Otto Gambian Kol, voting for this regime in 2026 will be the most detrimental, acts that Gambians would do. But of course, a lot of people, they don't care about the plight of the Gambian people, including most of the people in the police. All they care about is their pockets. But of course, what really goes into a pocket in the Gambia? Honestly, what? Ni masunya iko ilata munele kejo mindoron kejo mindoron na moro wajata mole ikatuli ala wande mol kam fay ko soro batara yan intilimbal yaka. And within these 2 years we've cut ties with a lot of people. I personally don't care. I don't need to make up any ties with anybody. Ma don judo fi ni mbani fa ndamala wulu manga fulandinde mo fulandinde fa sabo ko care much about fulandi mo hanen dingol ngamin wulu fa ni ma wulu nyola. So ala la ke draw ikete wululalte wala min kete defana wululalte ala la wala kete wululalte bara mo tante moti ñun dunya anu mo la dunya baluta mo bulu ala ya lon ka bra ko kole antol karanta len anu na karamo en na fala fana anu mbuka malo mola wala tan ko ni NPP ni mo ko tamal jamin ya lon ko they are into this political nonsense and activism, and you said you did this. Bro, we did it when we had to do it, and we thank God for it. And you see other people in the middle of the case, boy, ana buguloli man mala de wahne dama don wax mbiri police because I wanted a job in the Gambia. Do I look like somebody who wants something like that? Alama ala njowala alama entanka ufamra. That I had nothing to do in life. I got to talk about a police case simply to look for a job in a regime as disgusting as Adama Barros. Ala njodo ko wala alama ala yankan kati wala ngafam. I am not folks that you actually take to VAR and say, ayo yafi wa hundi tenga deflenen. Ala man tanka lala. Nkala dani wala ala man tanka. Wala minka wandi molu faye murun ko tanke wuli ala dole ka ye wala soron tilimbali anin tapale ala ka modo le wuli ko ka felo ka amoro fo mala fi nyim ko mbeta o place sun kanni wala kala munet. Ala ya lon kila ya lon ni wala fo jibe mi ya lon ko ko jo min hanin tili sabado ko fo ngamo. Let's just put that aside. Komba obe man amanjara. Bare min kumada wala nyintiko Adama Barrow la masa kunda tilimbali yani tajinti ya mi law senu boja nala dimbayalu kan wala na tambitale nana ma wala mo kan nyimbanko kan e ami boja na dimbayal ke bayol ti dingol be borim na ka bo sate kata sate ka to man tadu la so de man ku fenged la ka to ye ba mamuta ya soron tilimbali yani tapale yaka ya dingol ke bayoti mol nyabe la mo be nyaka ko kuta kering e useno boja muta ya fondala doku wala ya tilimbali ya e ko sifa be tilingala mo be ya mena ko kuta kering bare bi to nya fela sabati ta tandita ko ye mimbe fama be muliyalti to nyati je woto the court of public opinion has already judged this case that of course the regime is complicit in the killing of the cops, and it has done everything humanly possible to frame and incarcerate this young man, and they had no truth to it. Everything they said to us were all lies and fabrications. Just to have that conversation that this is the final thing we are going to say on this case, but we owe apology to nobody. Ninga atara fana kuma fo mo mi alon ka manke to nyat ninni fara mbenga ala itambe kiti ala yamai ntama fo mo fanko we did so. I did no fucking wrong to any fucking police officer in that country, and we don't give two fucks to any one of you. katal manke mo kende dia mo kende jiko ta la tol mo kafirol lati an kafir jiko ale wala tan ñun la. That includes that anti-crime, whatever commissioner Sow. That includes the former DIG Sow. That includes Ibu Sow. That includes that Pate Jallo. That includes the former IG, the current Minister of Interior. Atolo bemo jahanda madingol na tindala na fa masila la kato. Atole ni wuliya be double double. You people know everything about this case, and you are the same people that said that Usino Bojan killed the cops. What you want, Khadija? What do you want? I don't know what you want. Go bring the ball over there. Come on, go bring the ball. Take this back. Why do you bring it over here? Take it back over there. Come on, take it back. Yeah, but you can't bring that and leave it over here. That's metal. Take it back. You don't want to do that? Okay, then you gotta shut up. Okay? If you don't want to do that, you gotta shut up. Here. So wala mkuti misorada katu ni mwe nyinkato la musolla no ata diala liye. Ni mwe nyinkato dingolla ya kal dolla ya kal kotolla ya kal signolla ya kal badingolla ata diala liye mune atolo bula ko woke wandi dingolla ko woke wandi dolla ko woke wandi badingolla min yalon ko ala yalon kila yalon atoli yalon your conscience know this dude has nothing to do with it. Alko hani wala diata ntoliyembe wala kera. Bawo ntolle ka uniform odun sembo ben tolle la molo sembeta mola be ala doron la asatalla wala tinna ntol dol we don't even care how much power and authority some of you have ngo hana tara ko malka Gambia la sangola jindina alka ni banko bunta nyobala mobe fa we don't give two extra shit to any one of you katol manke mo kende jikota alla nyinam kuti min sorada. But it also speaks to the common Gambian mentality and the political class. Ibe de ko kuta kering kado sen bo jamanke politician oti wala ka avoko they are fighting corruption, they are fighting malgovernance, but this is a particular case very, very strange in its nature, but no single politician opened a lid on it because they are telling us what, oh, it's a matter before the court, but police will need to what if they were talking about the same case. The matter is before the court. At all politician will find a lot of wallala. I'll be killing Alman Fatahani Fen and telling off Lata Walla. Whatever you people got to do, go and do it. Whoever becomes president is your business. Tolla Haji Sunkan Inteje. Kato Soma Fanal Fanasa Dolomotanula in Tilimbaliasi Fatilingal, Almahani Fatahani Fen of Fenala, Kato, Atole Benya Ben in Tilimbaliani, Tajintian, Batrial in Bangkoka, Sanji Fula Bumburum, Albebe Derin Tech, Kokuta Kering. But many Akarajeng all tend to ngejai because we've seen people from our community and beyond who mustered the courage to tell the people that something is not right in this case. And they did not care to be arrested, they did not care to be jailed, they did not care to be questioned, and they did not care to lose their jobs, and they made sure that they spoke. They made sure they speak their mind on matters that actually are about truth and justice. Omar mo fondi fenna mo tala fenna ning ayata ramba banko la kamiya lon ko tonya ni tilimo la kasabati ye. But to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to thank everybody who supported this case, because we don't even care about what the judgment is going to be, because it's evidently clear beyond reasonable doubt that the regime had nothing against this young man. More so after today that the phone was presented to court and right in the face of the judge. Itolo ko yo telephone format le mo telephone do na tala katandi ko nyinno mo tonyate nyinna sabatita nyinna sodota itolo ko mama mo million tabar audit report ya tanila ko mama e million detail ya dila ñu lunkar la ya dila in the conference hall of the Ministry of Interior. Itolo ko osenu be do ko la brikama area council le be man sodo yela nyimma sakunda mo be ko mani nanke forolondi kiti bodo wodon tol nyanta mimbe nyanta tol mo be kedal, and everything that we wanted to do, we did it without fear of contradiction, and we don't care what anybody thinks or whatever you believed in. Because one thing we believed in from the beginning was that Useno did not do it, therefore we will go all out to make sure that his innocence is proven. And then if the government is criminal, we are 10 times more criminal-minded, towards this case. And that's exactly what we did. Allah mansa kunda kurung, Allah mansa kunda tapali, Allah mansa kunda mofala, mun alman lankena mabi. Ina mukuti min sorota. What about of course, it's the last time we're probably coming over here, and probably the last time we're getting involved with anything that's government related or political related. We got to hold our horse and do other things, man. But we needed to be out and about on this case for the last 2 years because we know this young man, we grow up with the young man, and we can't in any way, beyond my conscience, to go to sleep and think that, oh, I am still sorting up on matters related to Usain Boja, somebody I know and grew up in the community. My conscience couldn't have allowed me to do that. And therefore, that's why we needed to be here constantly. And doesn't mean that we just love to talk. We don't care about political talk. I've never been involved in anything that's politically related. If it is not fun, it's not for me, man. I'm not interested in it because it's been, you know what? My life has never been built around a politician or a political class. Moro, ntolman sula politician ulla kabalu. Ntolman sula politician ulla to get something or to do whatever. Ntamanke o mosivade. Ntolman ke you know, political advisors karambali londin tangol mini alonko na manke politiko ti manke ane fenna fenti molla bankoka. Ntolman ke o mosifalti. So what it's alonko political manjarin toli hani fengo fenna, and it has never been our business. But if you call us to it, we will give it to you to the best way you want it. So on this matter, we will probably put it to rest, and of course, we wait for the conclusions of the case and eventual judgment. And even after that, expect that we are actually going to put up a case against the government of the Gambia. That we will not really have time to talk about because it is our case against the government of the Gambia. But the government against the people and all their lies, we needed, you know, the space to make sure that we debunk all their lies and make sure that the truth is told to the Gambian people. And we believe that people with conscience, people who believe in the truth, actually believe that we told them everything that we needed to say in this case and matters related to it. Poto Gambia la jata balbulu. Momo ike ko de hakilo to police or to kato nyendo multimini alonko they can frame and lie against you, you know, any citizen. And of course, ngolat ne Omar Bojang atondi Omar Baji fa. Along shortly kabiri ke monyo bunkid wala ninku kota wala, you know, nga modol je 369 nyol ifinde de ko wala hadani ko wala mu ko ka jela wala la o mo kidin wala wulte nafiki mal itara si ko ka Omar la saya la sunu ni lolo be. I did not say much about that because it was clear to me a week prior when I had a conversation with Kema Kwanyantanga Nyim police or Minije and Tolobunte Yinibe Kamfari Nyaming. These people, you know, Yinimankori Mufala. I thought maybe come, you know, maybe Nongola Fajikala Tia Mulunka, don't worry, man, you know. Akonya Moro, you know me and you know better. So Ninko more farmanta Kelanyako offend. You know, just believe it. A week later they killed the young man. Yinlo multiminia lonko kakadama di mo fa manke nyako defending yinimo mo fala leti mo kurungo lamiti tapale lamiti. If they could do that to Usain Boja, you think they cannot kill? They can kill for the regime for whatever reason. So dongal tentungal jay alma, you know, tiloto diara. Butung guy na politiko bem fama bulukado sila ubale and tolkumani nanjele. Probably in later time we would actually look into getting into something proper, and of course we will come all out on it. And we will make sure that this country is put on the right footing. Because mbeming kono bi tilimbaliani tapaliani bandia mimbeje. Mi along ko mansa kundali nyanta wolbayla bara wala fomo they become the architect of criminality in our country. Only wolika homole ko amga, you know, is a lesser evil. Who is evil? Then you have a lesser evil in Barrow's regime, the most disgusting evil, and of course, you know, cruel government that ever existed. Albert tapaliani bandia mi no Usain Boja ni mo ko tamala min tilila. Nalamanta will bolo say I told the fence follow and that includes the police force and the personalities who were involved in this case. Especially DIG So Ibu So, the National Security Advisor Sankare and Co. Alta wandi so kon aliye bolo say tilimbaliani tapaliani bandi ala leminti.